I cannot become what I want to be. So I will declare wanting itself immoral. At what point does becoming strong turn into abounding yourself? Nietzsche called this tension the will to power, not with domination, but with what we sacrifice to feel strong. And it's not what most people think. The crisis, modern man and nihilism. Nietzsche doesn't start with a solution. He starts with a diagnosis, and it's an uncomfortable one. Modern humanity is sick, not in the body, but in its sense of meaning. For a long time, life had a structure. There was a God, there was a right and wrong, there was a clear idea of how life ought to be lived. Then that structure began to collapse. Nietzsche summed this up in one sentence: God is death. But this wasn't a murder. No one killed the God. People simply stopped living as if he mattered. And here's the problem. The old values disappeared, but nothing solid replaced them. This is where the crisis begins. Today, many people still live by moral rules, but they no longer believe in the foundations that created those rules. So life keeps moving, but something feels hollow underneath it. People no longer ask, what kind of life should I create? Instead, they ask, will people judge me? Is this too much? Am I allowed to want this? And Nietzsche called this nihilism. Life loses its intrinsic weight. Action loses their meaning. Desire becomes with guilt. And most importantly, strength starts to feel suspicious. Wanting more feels dangerous. Standing out feels uncomfortable. Confidence feels like arrogance. So, the modern man gets stuck in the strange position. He wants to become stronger, but it feels ashamed of wanting to be strong. He wants to be improve himself, but hesitates the moment growth requires discomfort. And this is exactly where Nietzsche's idea of the will to power enter. Because the problem isn't that people want power. It's that they no longer know what they are becoming powerful for. And in the next section, we arrive at the most misunderstanding part of Nietzsche's philosophy. What does power actually mean? The problems, what Nietzsche actually means by power. This is where Nietzsche is almost always misunderstood. When people hear will to power, they immediately think of domination, control, status, winning, being above others. But Nietzsche explicitly rejects this interpretation. For him, the desire to dominate others is not strength, it's compensation. True power, in Nietzsche's sense, is not external, it's internal. The will to power is the fundamental drive of life itself. To drive to grow, to overcome resistance, to shape chaos into form, to turn suffering into something meaningful. Every living thing expresses it. A plant breaking thought concretes, an animal adapting to a hostile environment, a person rebuilding themselves after everything collapses. Power here is not about defeating others, it's about overcoming yourself. And this is where most people go wrong. They chase power in the safest possible way. They seek approval. They collect status. They imitate strength instead of creating it. But Nietzsche would say, if your sense of power depends on recognition, then it isn't power at all, it's dependence. This is why he despised herd mentality. The herd doesn't ask, what can I become? It asks, what will be accepted? And here we arrive at Nietzsche's real enemy, resentment. Resentment is what happens when the will to power is blocked. When a person feels unable to create their own life, they turn that frustration outward. They moralized against strength. They turn their weakness into virtue. Nietzsche described this mentality perfectly. I cannot become what I want to be, so I will declare wanting itself immoral. This is why modern morality, in Nietzsche's eye, is not neutral. is psychological. It rewards safety over growth, comfort over creation, abundance over responsibility. And here's the crucial insight. The opposite of the will to power is not weakness, it's self-betrayal. The moment you start apologizing for your desires, downplaying your ambitions, or shrinking yourself to fit into what feels acceptable, your will to power doesn't disappear. It turns inward. It becomes guilt, anxiety, self-contempt. Nietzsche's question, then, it's not how powerful are you, but what are you becoming, and at what cost to yourself? And to answer that, we need to understand how morality itself reshaped human psychology. That's where Nietzsche's most dangerous idea comes in. Master and slave morality. The psychology of morality. Master versus slave. Nietzsche believed morality is not universal. It's not timeless. It's not objective. It's psychological. And it was created by very different kinds of people. He draws a dangerous distinction. Master morality and slave morality, not as social classes, but as psychological orientations toward life. Master morality begins with affirmation. It starts by saying, this is good, because it becomes from strength. Strength, creativity, courage, self-trust. The master type doesn't apologize for existing. They take responsibility for their desires, their failures, and their direction in life. Good and bad are descriptive, not moral. Good means life-affirming. Bad means weak, reactive, and life-denying. Slave morality begins somewhere else. It begins with fear. The slave type does not ask, what is strong? They ask, what is dangerous to me? And from that fear, morality is created. Humility becomes good. Abundance becomes virtuous. Self-denial becomes moral superiority. Not because these things enchant life, because they protect the weak from the strong. Nietzsche called this resentment. Resentment is delayed revenge. It is the psychological move that says, I cannot act, so I will judge. And over time, this morality reshapes the inner life. Desire becomes suspicious. Ambition becomes arrogance. Confidence becomes immorality. Life itself starts to feel like something that needs justification. This is the moment the modern individual fractures. On the outside, they pursue success, strength, improvement. But on the inside, they feel guilt for wanting it. They want power, but they are ashamed of the desire. And this creates a deeply modern tension, trying to become stronger while secretly believing that strength is wrong. Nietzsche saw this as psychological disaster, because when you internalize slave morality, you no longer fight external enemies. You turn against yourself. Your instincts are treated as threats. Your desires are put on trial. This is not morality elevating humanity. This is morality domesticating it. And here's Nietzsche's most uncomfortable claim. The most obedient people often believe they are most moral, not because they love godness, but because abundance protects them from risk. It keeps life small, predictable, safe. But safety is not like affirmation, it's survival. And Nietzsche was not interested in survival. He was interested in becoming. Which raises the question he forces onto us next. If inherited morality turns life into something to apologize for, what kind of human being would have the courage to create new values? That question leads directly to Nietzsche's answer, the Übermensch, Overman. The Übermensch, self-creation, not escape. Nietzsche does not leave us with criticism. He does something much more dangerous. He offers a solution, not comforting one, a terrified one. The Übermensch. Most people misunderstand this immediately. They image a superior human. Stronger, smarter, more dominant. That's wrong. The Übermensch is not someone who escaped nihilism. The Overman is someone who survives without lying. After God is dead, after absolute values collapse, after inherited meaning dissolves, most people rush to replace what was lost. New ideologies, new identities, new moral systems. Anything as long as they don't have to face the emptiness directly. The Overman does the opposite. They stand in that emptiness and they don't flinch. The Overman understands something most people avoid. If values are not given, then they must be created. And creation always begins with destruction. This is very important right now. Nietzsche is explicit about this. Before you can create new values, you must destroy the old ones inside yourself. Not society's values, not religion's values. The values you use to excuse your fear. The values that tell you, don't want too much, don't stand out, don't risk becoming yourself. The Overman does not ask, is this allowed? They ask, can I stand behind this choice without resentment? They do not outsource meaning to God, society, morality, history, trauma. They said, this life is mine, and whatever it becomes, I am responsible for it. This is where most people turn away from Nietzsche. Because the Overman offers no shelter, no forgiveness from above, no moral alibi, no external authority to blame. Only authorship. To be the author of your values, the author of your direction, the author of your life. The Overman does not seek happiness. They seek affirmation. They are willing to affirm even suffering if it belongs to the life they choose. Not because suffering is good, but because a life you fully own is worth more than life you merely survive. This is why Nietzsche says the Overman stands beyond good and evil, not immoral, but post-excuse, no longer hiding behind inherited rules, no longer apologizing for existing, no longer needs permission to become. And here Nietzsche delivers the real blow. If you cannot create your own values, you will live according to someone else's fears, which leads to his final test. Not a moral or religious test, but an existential one. Can you affirm your life so completely that you would be willing to live it again exactly as it is? That question brings us to Nietzsche's ultimate idea, eternal recurrence. Section 5. Eternal recurrence, the ultimate test. Nietzsche's final idea is not a theory, it is a test, not for intelligence, but for your relationship with your own life. He calls it eternal recurrence. Imagine this. One night a demon appears to you and says, this life you are living right now, every moment, every pain, every mistake, every joy, you will have to live it again, forever. Nothing change, nothing erase it. Nietzsche's question is simple. Would that crush you? Or would you say yes? This is not about reincarnation, not about metaphysics, not about whether it is literally true. Eternal recurrence is a psychological experiment. It exposes something brutal. Do you live your life as something you tolerate or something you affirm? Most people live as if life is the draft. They endure, they postpone, they wait for permission, they survive Monday to Friday. They tell themselves, this isn't really my life yet. Eternal recurrence destroys that illusion. Because if this life had to repeat, there would be no later, no reset, no redemption are handed to you. Only ownership. This is where the lived power reach its highest form. Not domination, not success, not recognition, but affirmation. To say yes to your choices, yes to your failures and sufferings, because they belong to the life you choose to live. Nietzsche is ruthless here. If you curse your life, You are living in resentment. If you need success, if you need excuses, you are not yet free. The Overman is not someone who avoids pain. They are someone can say, this life, exactly as it is mine, and I do not reject it. This does not mean everything is good. It means everything is owned. Eternal recurrence is the opposite of hope. Hope says things will be better later. Nietzsche is asked, if nothing changed, would you still say yes? That is the standard. Not happiness, not comfort, but self-justification to live in such a way that your existence does not require apology. And this is why Nietzsche terrifies people. Because eternal recurrence doesn't judge you. It mirrors you. And whatever you feel in front of that mirror, that is the truth of how you live. Which brings us to the final confrontation. Not with Nietzsche, but with modern life itself. Nietzsche and the modern human. Nietzsche would not be impressed by modern life, not because it's weak, but because it avoids responsibility. We have more comfort than any generations before us, more information, more freedom, and yet less ownership. Modern humans don't suffer too much. They suffer without meaning. Nietzsche would ask, why are you ashamed of wanting more? Why are you disguise fear and morality? And do you call comfort balance? And call growth toxicity? We no longer say, I'm afraid. We say, that's problematic. That's unhealthy. That's not allowed. Morality has become a shield, not to protect others, but to protect ourselves from risk, from failure and judgment, and standing all alone. This is slave morality in a modern form, not chains, but excuses. We inherit values we didn't create, follow rules we didn't question, and call that virtue. But Nietzsche's question remains brutal. Are your values truly yours, or are they inherent defenses against fear? The modern human wants power, but without responsibility, wants meaning, but without creation, wants strength without tension. This is why so many people feel empty, even while doing everything right. Because they are living lives they never affirmed. Nietzsche does not ask you to rebel against society. He asks something harder: to stop hiding, to stop outsourcing meaning, to stop apologizing for existence, to live in such a way that even without approval, without certainty, without guarantees, you could still say, yes, this is my life. And that brings us to the final question. Not what Nietzsche's believe, but what you are willing to affirm. Conclusion. Nietzsche's will to power is not about becoming stronger than others. It is about not abandoning yourself while trying to become strong. Most people chase power by copying values, by seeking approval, by hiding behind morality instead of creating meaning. Nietzsche's point is sharper than that. Power is not domination, it is self-creation. The Overman is not someone who wins. It is someone who can say yes to their life and their choice and suffering without resentment. That is why Nietzsche is dangerous. Because if he is right, then nothing outside of you will save you. Not belief system, no excuses, only the values you are willing to create and live by. This is Nietzsche's philosophy. If you're wanting more philosophy videos like this, you can subscribe. And think about this. Are you becoming stronger, or are you slowly disappearing while trying to be?